Pesachim Nun Amud Aleph. V'haya b'yom hahu lo yiyeh or yikarot v'kipaon. So pasuk in Zechariah. My yikarot v'kipaon. Amar Elazar zeh or. It's light. Yakar b'olam hazeh. It's important in this world, but for kafui l'olam haba. But compared to the or in olam haba, it's minuscule. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, this refers to Elu Negoim v'Oyalois, the halachim of Negoim and Oyalois, Shekarnim B'Olam Hazeh. These are the most difficult halachos in this world, but in Olam Haba, where there's so much chachma, they're very easy. Rabbi Ben Levi Omer, Elu B'nei Adam, Shekarnim B'Olam Hazeh, Kfunim Olam Haba. That means even chachamim in the next world, people are going to be much smarter. And therefore, people who think they're big knockers in this world, in the next world, they're not going to be such big knockers.
I want to hear this too. Put it louder.
Kihad Rav Yosef, bread Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rav Yosef, chalash v'isnagid. He got sick. He almost died, but he got healed. Kihadar, when he came back, so Rabbi Shua ben Levi asked his son, "My chaziz, what did you see there in the Olam HaEmes? You were in the Olam HaEmes potentially." Olam hafuch reisi. I saw an upside down world. El yoinim lamata. Those that were great in this world are on the bottom there. The tachtoinim lamala, the unimportant people in this world are on the top there. He says, yeah, you saw a clear world. That's the way it is. Where are the Talmidei Chachamim in that world? So he answered, they're the same place where they are in this world. We're there. The same way we're here is the way we're there. V'shamati shayu oimrim. I did hear them say, Ashrei misha ba lakan v'talmuda biyado. Happy is the man who comes here and comes with his learning intact, because that's what goes on in the Olam HaEmes. There's a lot of learning. V'shamati shayu oimrim. People who die on Kiddush Hashem are so holy that other people cannot stand in their mechitza. Ubaninu, who are the Harugei Malchus? Ilem Rabbi Kiva Chaveirov. Are we talking about the Rabbi Kiva and the Eser Harugei Malchus that we read about on Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av? So Mishum Harugei Malchus v'Sulo. So they are on a high plane because they died on Kiddush Hashem, but they were great Talmidei Chachamim. What about the fact that they maybe are on a high plane because of that? Ela Harugei Lud. It was the people, two brothers, who gave up their lives. They confessed to killing the princess of a king. The king came and wanted to destroy all of Klal Yisrael. So these two brothers were moister themselves, and they said, we did it, even though they didn't. And they killed him. They saved Klal Yisrael. So the Harugei Lud, they're on a very high level. And it's just that, even though they might not have been big Talmidei Chacham. Bayam Hahu, this is another pasuk in Zechariah. Yiyam Metzilas Asus Kodesh Lashem. Will be on the decorations on the blanket that they put over a horse. Will be Kodesh Lashem. My Metzilas Asus. You know what? Yerushalayim is going to be enlarged. Look at the pictures of the Yerushalayim when it was in 1948, and look at the size of Yerushalayim today. It's an amazing difference. Yerushalayim has grown tremendously, and certainly compared to 100 years ago. So that and that this prophecy is being of the Gemara here, Rav Shua ben Levi, we have seen fulfilled in our own day. Ad shasus ratz umeitzel. That means a horse can run a half a day and avoid his shade, because the shade goes from east to west. That's basically how Rashi explains. That's how big Yerushalayim is going to be. He teaches more pshat that the various bells and decorations that they hang on the horse will all be given by Bnei Yisrael as gifts to the Beis Hamikdash. That means the non-Jews are going to come and attack Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, and we are going to defeat them, and we are going to take money from them on one day from Chatzos, from the morning until Chatzos, and that will be brought a nedava to the Beis Hamikdash. So there's different pshatim in this. What is meant by this Metzilas Hasus pasuk? Bishma mandamar kol biza shaboz Yisrael. It's good according to the mandamar that learns it's related to what Klal Yisrael is going to take spoils from the Gentiles. Hainu dichsiv v'hayasi wrote b'veis Hashem ki mizrakim lifnei mizbeach, that the various plates, there's going to be more silver and gold that will be in the Beis Hamikdash, because there's going to be biza that Klal Yisrael donates. But according to the other pshatim, my v'hayasiyos Beis Hashem. So Milsachristi Komer, he's saying something else. Asri Yisrael, it's not v'umaisi, because Bnei Yisrael themselves are going to become wealthy, and they will donate. It has nothing to do with the biza. Knani here refers to a merchant, because the word Knani refers sometimes as a merchant, as we'll see. So we don't need merchants anymore to sell anything, because there'll be so much biza from the goyim. So what does it mean, though, that there won't be a Knani anymore? It means Klal Yisrael will become wealthy, like we said in the Pshat. And the word Knani is like a abbreviation for there's no poor people, Ein Kan Ani. Now, Uchnani Minolan de Ikre Tagar. Where do you see that the word Knani could mean a merchant? L'chsiv, Vayar Sham Yehuda Bas Ish Knani. In the story of Yehuda and Tamar, it introduces that Yehuda saw the daughter of a Knani, my Knani. Ilem Knani. We're not talking about somebody who was an Emoiri or a Chivi or Yevusi, because Efshar Ba Avram Yizra as Yitzchak and Ba Yitzchak Vizir as Yaakov, both Avram and Yitzchak warned their sons, don't marry the Canaanite women. The Yehuda Ozil V'Nasi, what Yehuda is going to marry a Canaanite woman, can't be, because he received it from Yaakov that's not something. So it's not that she was a Canaanite woman. Ella Amr Shem Elokish Bas Gavra Tagra. She was the daughter of a wealthy merchant. Chiraha Adulami, right? Chsiv Knan Biyado Mosne Mirma. That the merchant had improper scales. That there are sochrim, and the Knaanei Nichbadei Aretz, and the merchants are honored people of this land. Okay. Now we've been teaching psukim in Zechariah. So at the end of Zechariah it says, "Vayashal melech kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad." Freit Gemara otu ha'idna lav echad. What do you mean? Hashem is not one now. It's only then. But now he's not echad. Our world is not the same as the future world. When you hear good news, right? This is Rav Hershel Schachter said that when you get the vaccine, you should say Atov Umeiti. The Absaros Rose on bad news, Omer Baruch Danams. In our world, there seems to be a difference between good things that happen to people, bad things that happen to people. We don't see yet in this world that even the bad things that happen to people ultimately is really good, but that we don't see that. So that's why in this world, it's not completely echad. I once heard Rabbi Krauss say, that's why one of the reasons we cover our eyes when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Because Hashem is Midas HaRachamim and Elokim is Midas HaDin. So what we're saying in Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, right? There's Hashem who is merciful, but there's Elokeinu who practices Din. Really, it's Hashem Echad. Both are good for us. It's all one. Both the good and the bad. Whether we're judged b'din or judged b'chesed, it's just in this world we don't see it. So we cover our eyes so that it shouldn't be sheker. Because how can we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad? When we look around, we see that there's good and there's bad. So that's why we cover our eyes when we say Shema Yisrael. It's a good pshat. I found that to be a good pshat. But la'olam haba kulo atova meitiv. In the future world, everything we will make a bracha tov umeiti because it's all for our good. Everything that happened, that's what we say. Tav kol man the matar rachmana l'tavav.
Kol man da avd.
Kol man da avid rachmana l'tavav. Whatever Hashem does, He does it for our good. We don't understand it. How is it for our good? But in the future, we will understand it. That's why we say. Shira Malois, Beshuva Hashem Hashivat Tzino Hayinu Kecholmi. When eventually we're going to be returned to Tzion, we're going to look back and we're going to say, we were dreamers. Now we understand everything. We didn't understand it then. Now we understand. Okay. Now, then it says Ushmo Echad. His name is one. Now, my echad, what does that mean? What, his name is not one? Right? Yud K Vav K. We don't pronounce Yud K Vav K. We say Ado Shem. Right? So the way he's written is not the way we read it. We will write it Yud K and we'll read it by Yud K. It's all going to be Echad. So Rav Midrash Befirka. Rav wanted to darshan on that subject at his weekly or by the various drushes he would give on Yom Tov. He wanted to actually teach the people how to pronounce the Yud K Vav K. An elder warned him no, or said don't do it. We have been always teaching that sometimes when it says Ahu Saba, it refers to Eliyahu Novi. Eliyahu Novi came to Rav and say no, it's not a good idea, because when it says Zeh Shmi Le'olam, it's written Aleph Lamed Mem, not Aleph Vav Lamed Mem. It's written Chaser. Le'olam ksiv. So le'olam means le'elam. Elam means invisible. It's supposed to be ne'elam. It means we don't read out this name. Rav Avina Rami, ksiv zeh shmi le'olam, v'zeh zichri l'dor dor. So what is it? Is it le'olam or is it l'dor dor? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Lo kishani nichtav ani nikra. The way I'm written, I'm not read. Nichtav ani b'yud kei. The nikra ani b'alav daled. That means now, until olam haba, the shmi v'zichri will be different. My name and the way you pronounce it will be different. Perak Revi. Makam shenagu lasas malacha ba'arvei psachim ad chatzois oisim. We'll see that there was a minig in some communities not to do work Erev Pesach after chatzois. But there were places where they worked half a day ad chatzois. And makam shenagu shelo lasos ein oisim. There was a minig that they didn't do work all day. They did work at night, but not from the morning until Chatzos. We don't have this halacha. Even though the Ramah says in Shulchan Aruch, sheminag Ashkenazim b'chlal lo lasos malacha, kvar haruch achroinim she'ein ze minag hamekubal ala kol. V'yesh mekomot shebehem osim afilu malacha gemura. That's pretty much like us. We do malacha on Erev Pesach because hoyru chachamim she'ein ze minag hamekubal ala kol. What if you travel from a place that did work to a place that didn't work, or vice versa? We do whatever chumrah exists. That means if he comes from a place where you don't work, even if you go to a place that does work, you don't work. And if you go to a place that doesn't work, even though your minig is to work, you accept the chumrah of not working. Person shouldn't change the minig makom because it's going to lead to machloikas. Kayotzubo, in a similar vein, hamolich perush shvius. The din is that in the Shemitah year, you're allowed to eat the fruits that have been grown on the ground during the Shemitah year, as long as there is food in the fields for wild animals to eat. Once that food is gone, then everyone is chayiv to destroy the perush shvius that's in your house. You have to be mavayir, and then that's one. When you do a vidui meiser, when you went up to the base of Mikdash by the bikurim, and you did kriyas vidui. You made a kriya there. You said biarti hakodesh min habayis. Part of it was this burning of the perush shvius. So there are going to be different locales. There might be locales where there is still food in the fields for the wild animals, and then there are locales that don't have that. Let's say you brought peros from a place where there is no more food in the field to a place where they still have food in the fields. Oh, vice versa. You do the chumras of both places. You have to destroy the perush shvius. But Rabbi Yehuda notes, save avelacha afatat. Rabbi Yehuda says no. That if you come to a place where maybe there is no more food out in the field, but let's say where you came from there is, you can tell, listen, I'm going to eat it because I can go and get it because in my hometown there's still food available in the fields, so you can go to the same place if you want. Save avelacha afatat. Now, my area arvei psachim. Why did they say there you can't do malacha erev Pesach? Afilo arvei Shabbat is varvei yom tiv dami. This din of minimizing malacha applies to erev Shabbos and every erev yom tiv. Erev Shavuos, Erev Rosh Hashanah, Erev Yom Kippurim, every Yom. The Tanya, Oisim Lacha Bar Shabbos V'Yomim Toivim, Minamin Cholamala. Rashi says Teisha Shosu Metzah. That's Mincha Ketana. Mincha Gedola is Sheisha Osu Metzah, right? Six and a half. There's machlokas exactly which mincha we're talking about. But if you do work, you're not allowed to do work. If you do work on these Erev Yomim Tovim or Shabbos, Minamin Cholamala, Ein Roa Siman Brach Lo'ilam. That money will not benefit you. It's not gonna be a bracha. So, but by Erev Pesach, Chacham Mechatzos. Right here, the Isra Malacha starts already noontime. Inami, Hasam Siman Bracha Dulachasim, Aval Shamuti Lo Meshaptinam. By Erev Shabbos and Yom Tiv, we've been told that you won't see a bracha from what you earn, but you won't be put into Chera. Hacha Shamuti Nami Meshaptinam. Here, the minig is so strong of not doing Lacha Erev Pesach that if you work in such a place, they would put you into Chera. Okay. Gufa. Now we're going to learn something in detail now, which we mentioned in passing. We said if somebody does work, Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, from Mincha on, or Motzei Shabbos, Motzei Yom Tov, Motzei Kippurim, like you jump into work right after Shabbos is over. You don't give it a time to make sure that the Zman Isser is passed, right? Right? Any place where there's a hint of Aveira, Lasui Tanis Tzibur, to include, for example, Tisha B'Av and other public Tainisim, where they're fasting because of rain, where there was Isra Malach as well. So the work, the profit that you make from that work, it's not going to see blessing. Tana Rabbanon, Yesh Zoriz V'Niskar. Sometimes a person is very diligent, he's not lazy, and he benefits. Yesh Zoriz V'Nifsan. Sometimes the same activity, being diligent and being quick to do something, will cause you to lose. Sometimes Yesh Shofel, a person's lazy. He just sits on his behind. V'Niskar, but it'll benefit him. V'yesh Shofel V'Nifsan. Sometimes by being lazy, you will lose. And the Gemara gives us examples of everything. Zoriz V'Niskar, the Avid Kuli Shabta, person who works all days of the week, but V'lo Avid B'Mali Shabta, he doesn't work Erev Shabbos, so he's a Zoriz V'Niskar. Zoriz V'Nifsad, the Avid Kuli Shabta, the Avid B'Mali Shabta, right? Person who works during the week and he works Friday, he's going to lose out. Shofel V'Niskar, lazy, and he still benefits. The Lo Avid Kuli Shabta, the Lo Avid B'Mali Shabta. If he doesn't work at all, he still will get benefit. I guess Shemayim will help him. Shofel V'Nifsad, the worst guy is someone, the Lo Avid Kuli, doesn't work all week, but the only day he works is Erev Shabbos, of Mali Shabta. That's the worst. Amar Rav Hani Nashi de Mechuzah, the women of Mechuzah. They don't work Erev Shabbos, but that's no credit to them. It's Mishum Mifankusahu. These women don't, they're Mifunakim, they're istinus, they take care of themselves too well, right?
They're delicate. They're delicate.
Yeah, they're Mifunakim. Mifunakim means they don't be
They're
careful what
spoiled is mefunok.
they're spoiled, exactly.
They're spoiled.
They're spoiled. They don't work any day. They don't get any credit that they don't work Erev Shabbos. Even so, but they are also, since they end up not working Friday, they get that bracha of not working Friday. Rava Rami, Ksiv ki gadol at shamayim chazdecha. Your chesed is great up until shamayim. Ksiv ki gadol me'al shamayim chazdecha. Your chesed is higher than shamayim. Haketza. Kan ba'oisin lishma, kan ba'oisin shalom lishma. If you do chesed because you're interested in your name being on a plaque, right? You're just doing it because of covet. That's shalom lishma. So your reward will be ad shamayim. But someone who does chesed lishma, he's doing it because of the mitzvah of chesed. He doesn't care about any of the side benefits. Then he goes me'al shamayim. Rav Yehuda, Davi Amar Rav, lo'elam yasu gadim b'torah v'mitzvahs afal pi shelo lishma. Should we talk shelo lishma, b'al lishma? Still better to do Torah and mitzvahs, even if you're doing it not for the correct reasons. I'll never forget, we had one of the siyumei mashas that we participated. There was Susie did a siyum mashas in our backyard. I know some of you were there. And Rabbi Uri was still alive. And Rabbi Uri graced us with his presence. He was elderly then. And I remember, I think his son Izzy brought him. And he spoke to us. I remember he spoke to us very much about this concept. I don't know why, about making sure that our Torah learning is Torah Lishma. I'll never forget that. He somehow honed in on the concept of Torah Lishma. Although we are told by the Imam that you can learn Torah Shalom Lishma as well. But when you learn Torah Lishma, it's like one of the highest madrigas. Okay, Torah Rabbanon. Hamatzapel ischar ishto. The person relies on the fact that his wife works. Virechayim. For example, let's say his wife grinds wheat as how she makes money. Einer osim in bracha lo'olam. That's not going to lead to a bracha. Now the Gemara is going to explain what these things are. What is schar ishto? Matkulta. Matkulta is like, for example, she spins at home or weaves at home by weight. So since it's by weight, it's very little paid. And I guess it's an embarrassing job to have in the street. So it doesn't lead to a siman bracha. Rechaya, what's rechaya? A garta. That means grinding grain by hand. Aval avda umezabna. Let's say she does handwork and sells it. That's good. Mishtabach bakra. The Torah even praises such a woman. T'chsiv, Eishes chayil miyimtza, sadin asta vatimkor. Right? She made a sheet and she sold it. So that's an honorable thing that your wife can do. Torah Rabbanon, Hamishtaker bikanim uvekankanim. Person does is he sells reeds or jugs. Ein harosim in bracha la'olam. That doesn't lead to bracha. Why not? My time. Kiven de nafish avachzayu. There's a lot of people, when you have this business, you have to have a lot of it to make any profit. And then people give you an anahara. Because people think, oh my God, this guy's selling so much stuff. But really, it's not very profitable. It's very interesting. So if you're in a business that like sells a lot of things but are not profitable, it leads to ayin hara because people think you're making a lot of money, and therefore doesn't lead to bracha. Torah Rabbanon, Tagri Simta, these are merchants that would sell in the alleyways near the Rosh Hashanah. And therefore everybody sees you. People who raise small animals like sheep and goats. The problem with that is those animals cause a lot of damage to other people's fields. The Kotetze Ilonas Tovos, let's say your job is to cut down trees, even fruit trees. But let's say you were given a hectare for some reason to cut them down. So all of these will lead to Ein Hara. And therefore, Ein Hara v'nois l'nei b'chelik yafeh. When people divide things up, he always wants to get the best piece. So that doesn't cause siman bracha. Ein Hara siman bracha lo'ila. My timer. The Tohu be'inshi. People are going to pay attention to that. And they look at their actions. And therefore, if there's too much einayim looking at things, if the ayin is sholate, so there's never, right? Remember, we learned in another shas, another chazal, things, what is a bracha sholate on? Things that are mesame me'einayim, things that are hidden. The bracha comes on things that people do not see. So that's what these Gemara is saying. Arba prutos ebem sim bracha lo'ila. There are some professions also doesn't lead to bracha. Schar koisvin. People make their money by writing, like a soifer. Schar meturgmonin. Someone gets paid to translate the meturgman. Someone who gives the drasha, the chacham darshans, and he translates. Schar yisomim means he's serving as an executive of an estate of Yisomim. Umos habos b'mdina sayam. He does international commerce. He imports exports, where his goods have to come from far places. This kind of business doesn't lead to bracha. So the Gemara explains. Bishma schar meturgmanin. Why, if you're a translator, is there no bracha in that? Because in some ways, Mishum de Mechzik is Schar Shabbos. Remember, the drasha was given on Shabbos. He's paid for translating. So it looks to people like you're earning money on Shabbos. Most Yisomim Nami, Lav Ne Mechilin. So if you're doing business with somebody and you make a mistake and maybe you took 2 cents profit more than you reported, in general, your friend will be moichel you. A small amount is always moichel. But Yisoimim have no ability to be moichel. Because they're not halachically of age to be moichel. And therefore, if you are mafsid them anything, so you're going to be looked at like a gazlan. And therefore, that's why there's no bracha in doing business like that. If you're representing the Yisomim. Most of us can say, if you're in the import-export business and your goods are arriving by sea, well, it's like a nace that the sea is so capricious and so dangerous that the fact that your goods arrived in one piece is a nace. So therefore your schusim will be depleted just so that your goods will make it to shore. So we understand those 3 things. Elaschar kois in my time. Well, what's wrong with being a soifer? Why isn't the payment for safrus? Why isn't there bracha in that? Amr Shubin Levi. Esrim va'arba tanias yoshvan sheiknes agdola al kois ve'sforim tefillin mezuzah shlo yisashru. It's because of something that happened. The Anshe Knesset Agdola fasted 24 fasts that the Soifrim who wrote the Sforim that Tefillin Mezuzah should not get wealthy. because Shemal Misashri ain't koisvin. If they got wealthy, they would stop writing. So there's somehow a tefillah there that soifrim, they won't get too wealthy so that they'll continue to be soifrim. Otherwise, we will not have svarim and tefillin and mezuzahs. Very, very interesting event that the Sanhedrin did there. Anshik Tesak Doila. Torah Koisvei svarim tefillin mezuzahs. Soifrim, who write, Haim v'tagrehen, the merchants that sell their stuff, the tagre tagrehen, the oiskim and lechel shamayim. What does that include? People who sell tzitzis. Ein and roin simen bracha la'olam. They don't see bracha, but im oiskin lishma roin. If they do all of their work lishma, because they're writing sifrei Torah, that there's a mitzvah, that the mitzvah should be there for people who need it, like tefillin and tzitzis, and you do it, then they will have sin and bracha, because they did it lishma. And because they'll never, even if they become wealthy, says Rashi, they won't leave the profession. So therefore, it doesn't, the fact that the Anshe Knesset Dola fasted those 24 times, so they shouldn't become wealthy, that's for somebody who doesn't have the right kavanah. But if your kavanah is lishma, that doesn't make a difference, because even if you got wealthy, you would still do it because you're doing it so mitzvahs should be present. The people in Beit Sha'an had a minig that they would not travel from Tyre to Sidon on Erev Shabbos. It's a very short trip, but they were machmir not to take a boat trip, even though it's a small trip, because of Koved Shabbos. They were machmir not to be mizbatel mitzorchei Shabbos. Also, Banayu Kamed Rav. Now, the children of these people who had that minig, Armelo Avis and Evshalom. Listen, our parents were very wealthy. They could do that minig. Anan lo Evshalom. We have to go sell our wares. We have to travel on Erev Shabbos. What can we do to overcome this minig? There's nothing you can do. It's a minig of your voiceam, and you can't change it. Shneimar, Shma b'ni Musar avicha, v'al titosh Torah simecha. Bnei Chozoi, the people of Chozoi, noagi de mafresh echala ma'aruzah. They would, when they would make a dough out of rice flour, they were mafresh challah. Now, those of us who've been learning tzurba understand that there's no chiyuv challah on rice, right? Also, Rav Yosef, they told Rav Yosef, let's bring a non-coin in front of their face and feed it to the non-coin. We have to show them that it's a faulty minig. So Abaya said, what do you mean? Dvorma mutari, permitted things. But other people are machmir on themselves in aser. You cannot be matir because it's a zilzul by other isurim. We'll deal with this. It's an interesting sugya here. Minhagim of people who asur themselves on things that are normally permitted. We'll learn that a little bit more.
There's a lot of